Series 1, Episode 4, and it's all about critical science, Africa women leading the next scientific golden age. And the agenda will go as follows. One, our participants are joining, and which is already done. From there, number 2, we have opening prayer. It will be led by Mr. Ronald. We shall have welcoming remarks. We shall have introduction to the Pan-African Science Hub, the introduction of the guest speaker, the keynote presentation that is about clinical science, African women leading the next scientific golden age. We shall be followed by interactive question and answer, of which we have agreed that our questions, as our keynote speaker is presenting and you get a question, you may either note it such that in the time to come you'll be able to raise it, or possibly you will share it in the chat section. It will be followed by an open discussion and participant reflection of what has been taking place, or what our keynote speaker will have hinted on. Then from there shall go an announcement and upcoming PASH activities. It will be followed by the closing remarks, and then we shall have a group photo and networking. This group photo, we shall request each one of us put on video, or to allow video and devices such that we take a photo of all the present people. So at this juncture, we shall welcome Mr. Ronald to lead us into an opening prayer.
Well, good evening to all of us, good afternoon to all of us. I want to thank us all for having logged in to this part of our webinar series. It is a great honor to have Madame Rehema this evening and we discuss to deliver to us and to give a brief introduction about let me first give a prayer, then I came to the introduction. Lord Father, we thank you, we glorify your name, we give you the honor. But Father, we thank you for this day, we thank you for the moment you've granted us together. We thank you for our guest speaker today, Madame Rehema. Lord Father, may you grant her knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. May you bless the words of her mouth, Abba Father. Lord Father, may each and every one of us take something from this, our study webinar, Abba Father. We thank you and we glorify your name. In the mighty name of Lord Jesus Christ, we believe and pray. So, a brief introduction to our webinar today. It is Queens of Science, African Women Leading the Next Scientific Golden Age. And we all know that anything that gets the hand of a mother, the hand of a woman, this is where life starts from. So we are happy to have women at the forefront as we awake the golden spirit of Africa, the golden intelligence and wisdom of Africa. Madame Nankabirwa Rehema, our guest speaker, is a PhD scholar in accounting and finance, Alliance University, Bangalore, South India, that is Bengaluru, India, and at the same time she has been a visiting scholar at the University of Wolverhampton, that is in the United States, and is the serving treasurer of the Federation of International Students Association, Bangalore. Such a pleasure to have me discuss a lady of such caliber. to educate us, for us to learn from her and expand our knowledge. And for the interest of time, with that brief introduction, I roll it back to Madam Ruth. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Ronald, for that insightful introduction about our today's keynote speaker. And I'll do a return, Mr. Emma, help us also have a brief introduction about PASH, talk about PASH in very few words about our mission and vision, as we shall then welcome our CEO to usher in our keynote speaker. You're welcome, Mr. Emma. Mr. Emma, please.
Trying to figure it out with the network. All is well. My name is Isinde Emmanuel. I'm the head of partnership and collaboration to Pan-African Science Hub, known as PASH. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a sincere pleasure for one of you to attend our webinar series. And before we kickstart our session, I would like to take us through the preamble of the Pan-African Science Hub. What is PASH? At the same time, the mission and the vision and the objectives of the Pan-African Science Hub. I'll start by saying that the Pan-African Science Hub, it's a scientific platform that unites us scientists, at the same time defines us collectively when it comes to research, innovation, partnership, and collaboration. The Pan-African Science Hub was birthed as a result of commitment and resilience with the current global challenges, both in the global north and in the south. To be specific, mainly on the African continent, where we believe that despite having a 1.4 billion people, Africa contributes less than 2% of the global research output. So PASH bridges this gap by providing a central platform for scientists like Madame Rehema and the rest of other interdisciplinary scholars, policymakers, technical people, at the same time the young innovators, to ensure that we connect, share knowledge, collaborate, and build strong institutions that will last generations to generations. So we serve as a research catalyst, funding, we advocate, at the same time an education hub focusing on the frontier of science. So our mission is to promote science, education, research culture, and innovation among Africans by providing accessible platform for learning, collaboration, mentorship, and scientific leadership. Then our vision is to empower scientists to transform Africa into a global hub of research and innovation, reducing dependency on imported technologies, while addressing the critical pathway issues in health crisis, food insecurity, and climate change through homegrown solutions, and those are the indigenous knowledge. So our core values, as I conclude, one, we look at the scientific excellence which we are promoting in line with the research and innovation department. We look at also the Pan-African unit as we are elevating it from the global south to the global north. where the spirit of Ubuntu needs to be arised through these collaborations to address the continent's-wide challenges, henceforth to spearhead knowledge and mutual respect. Then lastly, it will be knowledge for impact, the knowledge that is going to be cascaded out, it will be translated into academic research, into real-world solutions that we are aiming at towards sustainability. Then lastly, inclusivity and equity. Then I will end by saying youth empowerment. Ladies and gentlemen, it's our sincere pleasure to introduce to you the Pan-African Science Hub. As we steer this journey, we look forward for more partnership and collaboration. I submit.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel, for such an insightful introduction about the Pan-African Science Hub PASH. At this juncture, I would welcome Mr. CEO to help us usher in our today's keynote speaker, Madam Nankabirwa Rehema.
Thank you, today's modulator. Without wasting of time, much of our time, I want to thank members who are logging in, who are streaming live on YouTube, those who are streaming live on our Facebook account. It's really a pleasure to have you there. And I want to thank our today's speaker, Madam Rehema, for accepting our invite and coming to nurture our women scientists here. It's really a pleasure to have you, and let me take this opportunity to give you time to come and give us the package you're having for us. Madam Rehema, please, the platform is now yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good day, everyone. Thank you, PASH, for bringing us all together. Thank you for these initiatives that are aimed at promoting the African scientists. And I want to thank every researcher that has taken their time to come, every student, every leader that is tuning from across different time zones today. My name is Rehema, and I'm going to be the one ushering today. So let me share my screen so we can start. Can everyone see my screen? Are you able to see my screen? All right. So when we talk about African women leading the next scientific golden age, we aren't just talking about the lab coats that, these fancy white lab coats that you see, or the test tubes, or the academic publications. We are talking about the structural foundations, these foundations that allow science to thrive. As we know, me and you, that science requires resources, vision, and strategy in order for it to thrive. This is where my world in accounting, finance, and cross-border collaboration intersects with the scientific breakthroughs. Today, I want to share how we can bridge these worlds to build sustainable futures for African research. And feel free to put your questions in the chat box during the sharing of this meeting. Right. So, to start with, the new face of science, we all know that African women, apart from African women, women at large have been at the back seat of science. But as the science is, a moment please. As science is developing, we are seeing more and more African female scientists emerging and doing memorable research and contributing to the scientific world. So today I'm here to talk about these wonderful women, how they have contributed to research, and how my contribution to research as an African woman is helping Africa at large. So who am I? My name is Nankabirwa Rehema, as introduced. I'm doing a PhD in accounting and finance, and also a visiting scholar / faculty at the University of Wolverhampton in the UK, where I am teaching sustainable engineering. I also have an MBA in co-finance, and my bachelor's is in international business. When it comes to my leadership, as mentioned, I was a treasurer for the year 2024 to 2025 in the Federation of International Students Association in Bangalore. And I've also published a couple of research papers in digital finance, sustainability, and financial reporting. My research interests are in sustainable finance, financial intelligence, digital, or you can call it green finance, green financial investments, and women economic empowerment. My mission as a female African scientist is to empower African women through research, financial intelligence, and leadership that creates lasting societal impacts. In order for you to become what you become in life, most of the time is because of certain role models, certain figures that push you. For example, if we talk about football, all of these stars did not just, out of nowhere become stars. They had role models that championed them, that inspired them to become the best in themselves. So as African scientists, as young African youth, as young African women, we have to look up to these famous female African scientists as examples. And the next slides, I'll be sharing the famous female African scientists who have gone to the global north and the global south, who have won Nobel Prizes in science. So first, to begin, I'm going to talk about Dr. Wangari Maathai, our neighbor. She's from Kenya, and her field is environmental science and conservation. She founded the Green Belt movement, which planted over 50 million trees across Africa. Dr. Wangari also pioneered environmental conservation linked with women's empowerment. She was the first African woman to receive the Nobel Prize, the Nobel Peace Prize, and also demonstrated that environmental sustainability is essential for social and economic development. Before I move on, I want us to go back to the pre-time of physics. I hear we have physicists here. The first mission, the Apollo mission, which was led entirely by women calculators. So because of such women, she was also inspired by such women who came out to be and build more than themselves. The next, we're going to talk about Dr. Tebelo Nyonko. She's from South Africa, and her field is in chemistry. She's an internationally recognized chemist who specializes in photodynamic cancer therapy. She has also developed light-activated treatments for cancer, and also one of Africa's most highly cited scientists if you are into the field of chemistry. She's also received numerous international awards for the scientific excellence. We'll go and talk about Dr. Maggie Aderin Kokok. She's a Nigerian scientist, and she's a physicist. Her field is in space science and astronomy, that is astrophysics. She developed instruments for observing satellites and studying Earth's atmosphere. She hosts the BBC's The Sky at Night, inspiring millions to explore astronomy, and also advocates for girls and underrepresented groups in STEM. Now I'm going to talk about my journey, Nankabirwa Rehema. I grew up in Uganda with big dreams. I did my O-level in Uganda, in my A-level. But admins being in Uganda, I knew I wanted to be something big, something more. I wanted to contribute to my country. I wanted to contribute to the continent at large. In that way, I looked for opportunities. I was not born from a very rich, family that I was born with a silver spoon. Knowing that from the early age, I looked for opportunities that would push me to achieving what I want to achieve in life. And that's how I ended up getting a scholarship in India, which was in 2019, and ended up pursuing a bachelor's in international business. Whilst I was pursuing this bachelor's in international business, that's where my research interest started. I published my first paper when I was in my bachelor's, which was about digital finance. And that's how I got love for research. I knew I wanted more. I wanted to achieve more. But remember, my background is humble, so I had to look for ways to get more and achieve my goal. I applied for different scholarships, and I was able to get a scholarship for my MBA in finance, where I graduated with first class. In the UK, it is a first class, but in India, I graduated with a distinction. During my master's degree, I also published a couple of research papers in digital finance, in sustainability, and also in big data analytics. So I wanted to take my research to the next step. That's how I ended up enrolling in a PhD in accounting and finance in India. Whilst I was teaching in India as an assistant lecturer and also a PhD scholar, an opportunity came for a visiting scholar, a visiting faculty at the University of Wolverhampton in the UK. And that's how I ended up in the UK as a visiting scholar at the University of Wolverhampton. But in all of this, why am I here today? What is my mission? What is my vision? Me as Rehema, a young African scientist. My mission is to inspire the next generation of African women in science. Moments, facing some problems with my PPT. All right, so why do women matter in science? If we look at statistics, women make up less than 1/3 of global researchers. And then when it comes to Africa, as well said by the previous speaker, Africa is only represented by 2%. And then this 2%, the majority are male scientists, which leaves Africa with significant gender gaps in STEM leadership and also STEM science fields. Involving our women in science leads to better innovation. If we look at the example of our friends here in the West, I'm gonna tilt more with the Apollo mission. In the beginning, there was a problem of calculating the distance from Earth to the Moon. Different male scientists tried to calculate the distance from Earth to the Moon, but they failed. That is where the involvement of women, actually the people who pioneered this moon mission were actually Black Africans. They're Black women who pioneered this. But because they involved the Black African women, this diversity made it easier for them to launch their mission to the moon. So that's why women actually are very important when it comes to science. So what is financial intelligence? Why is it a superpower for African scientists, especially African women scientists? Financial intelligence is a very broad word. It involves a lot of things such as budgeting, investing, managing grants, building wealth, understanding research, but all in all, like financial intelligence leads to one thing: economic development. Okay? You can have the most brilliant scientific hypothesis in the world, but without financial literacy, that research stays in the lab. True financial intelligence for our scientific institution means three things. The first thing is resource optimization. We must learn to stretch every dollar, every shilling that we get from the government, from other sources, by mastering the budgeting techniques, like mastering budgeting compliancy and grant reporting. I have heard that someone here is the head of the grant section. So I guess we'll have a word from someone like that to find out how is she managing the grant in PASH. To move on, secondly, income diversification. We cannot solely rely on shifting government budgets, because every time these budgets are raised, I know a very huge amount is allocated to science, but on the ground, how much money reaches the science labs? So we cannot solely rely on them. We must learn to pitch to private investors, venture capitalists, and also international foundations that fund the scientific research in different African nations. And third, financial transparency. When our institutions demonstrate flawless financial governance, international partners learn to trust us with larger and longer funds and grants, which leads to more scientific breakthroughs. So my advice to scientists today is simple. Do not run away from the numbers. Embrace the budget, the sheets, as tight as you embrace your data.
We're not able to see the presentation that we're trying to go through. I don't know if you're sharing with us the screen.
Actually, moment. Actually, I thought I was. Oh, thank you for bringing that to my notice. Are you able to now? Are you able to see the screen, please?
Yeah, we are able now.
All right, thank you so much. Actually, I asked in the beginning if you're able to see the screen. I'm so sorry about that. So I will move on to the next big topic, which is breaking barriers as African women. So I have put down 5 common barriers that limit African women, especially African women who want to be scientists. The barrier that I'll talk about is self-doubt. This self-doubt manifests in different ways. Feeling like you are inadequate, feeling like you cannot do it because you are not a man, feeling like, okay, I cannot be a physicist because I'm not a man. That is a section or a field that only men shine. I am from a very humble background, so I cannot become a scientist. I am a woman. Most of women are limited by self-doubt. As a woman, I'm so sorry to say, our humble African heritage have conditioned us to believe that women are only good with house roles, which is actually not the truth. Women are out here doing big things. So in order for you to make it, you must not limit yourself. You must break this self-doubt. Every day you must believe that you can and you are it. You are it and you can do it. The next barrier is financial constraints. Coming from a humble background myself, I faced a lot of financial constraints, financial problems when it comes to funding my own education. So how do you overcome this financial constraint, the barrier of financial constraint? Taking myself as an example, there are different ways one can fund their education. You can fund your education through scholarships, like for example, the Study in India scholarship. There are scholarships around the world, the Turkey bursary, the China bursary. There are different scholarships around the world that can help you pursue your dream as a scientist. Apart from that, you can always get a loan. There are different banks in Africa that give student loans. So in order for you to pursue your dream, you can either get a loan, or you can get a loan from a bank or from a family relative. So financial constraints have always been a barrier when it comes to women scientists. Why? Because these big financial institutions are always very skeptical when it comes to lending lending money to women. So there are other avenues such as scholarships. You can, browse scholarships. You can also, there are other avenues such as PASH. I have seen that PASH has been posting different scholarship, different schemes where you can get financial aid to pursue your scientific dream. The next barrier is a limited mentorship. I want to thank PASH for bringing up this initiative of mentorship. Most of African women do not receive the mentorship they require to make it in the scientific field. Because of that, their talents and what they could be is limited, and they never make it. So how do we break this barrier? We break it by networking. The more you network, you will find people who are above you, people who know more, people who will mentor you along the way. You should join groups that are related to what you want to do. For example, like the Pan-African Science Hub, that's a very big example. Or you can join groups on LinkedIn. There are groups also on LinkedIn you can join for mentorship in order for you to get help that you require along the way. The next barrier is gender stereotypes. I mean, I cannot stress this enough, but African women have always been put at the back when it comes to science. Actually, not only African women globally. And this is something that Women Emancipation is trying to fight. Women such as us, such as Dr. Nyoko, those are the women who have come out to break this gender stereotype. So you can take that as an example. In order for us to break the gender stereotype, we need role models such as Dr. Nyoko, such as me, such as other women scientists. So if we have more role models in these science fields, it will help motivate our young girls to also take up the scientific roles. And lastly is lack of networks. I don't know how I can stretch this long enough, but degrees alone do not build careers, networks do, especially in this global era. If you don't have the correct network, you're gonna be stuck at some point in your life. So lack of network is limiting our African youth, our African women from being the best they could be. In that way, different organizations, of course, PASH, have come up to create networks, people who can help along the way. Research as a tool for change. Why do I put it that research is a tool for change? Change can be positive and it can also be negative. But when it comes to research, research is a positive change. It is aimed at solving problems. For example, the research I do in green finance is aimed at helping with the climatic change. It's aimed at helping with sustainable development, financial inclusion, digital finance, women entrepreneurship, accounting and transparency. Different research that has been done by different African scientists has always been to help solve problems, world problems. And if we have more people in research fields and more problems being solved in Africa, that will help Africa grow. You understand what I mean? So research is a very important tool for Africa if we need Africa to move from one stage to another. Building sustainable careers and institutions. What do you understand by sustainability? What is sustainability? To make this scientific golden age sustainable, we must move away from short-term thinking. Sustainability means creating mentorship pipelines such as PASH, where people will be mentored along the way. If you reach the top, for example, I have reached the top, your role is to pull 3 more women up with you. Don't reach the top and close the door on others. You get? It also means building local institutions that retain talent. Because someone has been able to build a car, okay? That doesn't mean we should send them abroad to go and work with these big companies. No, our institutions should be able to retain this talent so that it can benefit Africa. We must create environments in Africa where a young woman doesn't feel like she has to leave the continent permanently to succeed. We must create sustainable environments, that is sustainability, that nurture the research. We do this by creating by treating research as viable, well-funded business ecosystem, not just as a underfunded academic hobby. So if you can see, there is a pyramid I have put up. On top of it is learning. Learning is something that can never end. That is why it is on top. And how do you achieve learning? You can achieve that through networking, the constant networks, and also skills. I want you to understand that degrees alone don't build careers, but skills do. The more skills you have, the better you are going to be positioned in the job market. Research to help Africa move forward, networking to help our young youth, to build them. It's more like we have a saying in the Buganda culture, akacha mama mela. So akacha mama mela means this person was not guided from the goal start. So by the time they reach this peak, they don't exactly where to venture. They are already, bent. So networking helps us build and nurture our young Africans into the best scientific selves they can be. And collaborations. Because of collaboration, different collaboration, me myself, I'm an example of a collaborative output. Because I decided to collaborate with a different university in a different country. So collaboration helps expose you to different research environments. When you are exposed to these different research environments, you gain different knowledge, different understanding, okay, of how research is conducted. After gaining that understanding, your role is to bring it back, network, nurture the African youth to help Africa grow. And the next and most important thing is leadership. The leadership, for example, I want to thank our CEO, Mr. Pius. Thank you for your leadership. We require such leadership in order to nurture the scientific breakthroughs. Leaders that foster networking, leaders that bring in different knowledge, leaders that bring in different expertise in order to nurture and also at the end of it all impact. The impact it is creating in Africa. So, what is the power of networking? I've been talking about networking a lot. What is the power of networking? How does one network? I want you to know that your next opportunity often comes through people who know your work. That is why it's very important for everyone, every scientist, to be on ResearchGate, to be on LinkedIn, to be on different platforms such as PASH. Why? What would that bring? When you're on these networks, it will help you land collaborations with different researchers. That will help you know how research is conducted by them in a different way. That can help you with your research. You might be stuck somewhere, so you need, something in your research. Professional organizations. Through networking, that's when different professional organizations hire PhD researchers to solve different problems. But how will you know if you don't have that particular network in your network system? So networking helps you gain access to these professional organizations that basically pay a lot of money to researchers to solve different problems in their organizations. And academic networking. See, we have students amidst us. If you network with different students, you get to, for example, you are stuck at one topic. You want to understand it more. And a student, a friend of yours from a different university per se, different country, can help you understand it in a different way. For example, you have tried it so many times and you have failed to understand. So these academic networkings also help us with the international conferences. You understand? So if we network with different universities, you can easily get accepted for an international conference, which can help you build your Scopus index. So the future of Africa science. So we have to look at the pros and cons, apparently, when we look at African scientists. What we have as Africa is young population as compared to our European neighbors. And what does a young population contribute? Young people have more energy. When we talk about the brain capacity of a young person and an old person, of course, a young person's brain will always win because they are thinking at a different pace, at a quicker pace. So we have the capability and the advantage of a young population. Natural resources. If you want to do research when it comes to maybe automotives, we have different natural resources, titanium, different things that can help us advance quickly. Young entrepreneurs, for example, Mr. Pius, young entrepreneurs who have come out to help Africa. We have young researchers. Africa has young researchers, but what do we lack? We lack women leaders. We need women leaders. I myself, I feel like, I'm so sorry to say this, but I feel like women are more capable leaders. We lack investments. Most of us, when we make it, we don't want to put the surplus back to the motherland. So if we put the surplus back to the motherland, it will help us with the research funding. And when the research is funded, the innovation will be boosted. And when the innovation is boosted, the international collaborations will follow. So along the way, my journey, as I have told you guys, I have learned a lot of things. My journey has taken me from regional environments to navigating global academic spaces, from Alliance University in India to the University of Wolverhampton in UK. Along the way, I have learned different things. I have learned that breaking barriers isn't a one-time event. It is a daily practice. As women in leadership, the biggest barrier we often face is the systematic isolation, being the only woman. The time I signed up for a PhD in Alliance, I was the only African woman there. So this systematic isolation of being the only woman or the only African woman in the room, how did I break through this? I broke through this by building global networks. serving the international student communities and refusing to separate my technical financial skills from my identity as an African leader. To lead the golden age, we must confidently occupy global spaces while keeping our impact rooted firmly at home. That leads me to never stop learning. Learning is very much important regardless your stage in life, and network also matters because it helps you place you where you exactly need to be. And please learn that failure is part of success. Regardless that I've published a couple of research papers, I've also been rejected a couple of times. In the beginning, it broke me, but after I learned that this failure is teaching me something more, I took it as a lesson instead of an obstacle. The more you fail, the more you learn. Different innovations, different things, breakthroughs in the world have faced like different, for example, if we look at the light bulb, before the invention of the light bulb, 1,000 failure attempts were recorded before one successful attempt. So failure is part of success. Don't look at yourself because I have failed today, I have got a 20% in this subject, it means I'm not good at it. No! Wake up, go again, do it again, because failure is part of success. And be financially intelligent. Remember, financial intelligence is very, very important. It includes budgeting, saving. The more you are very self-conscious and aware of your finances, it will help you push you. Because if you are not financially intelligent, you'll not be able to manage and, to manage grants. For example, you cannot manage grants and you cannot lead to an economic development. And most importantly, a very important lesson that I have learned along the way is to lift other women as I rise. Knowing that women are the less represented gender when it comes to science, it is my role and it is my duty, it is your duty as an African woman to lift another African woman as you rise to the top. Do not close the door on other women because you have made it. This is my call to action. The question I have here is, what kind of Africa do we want in 2050? Is it an Africa where girls become scientists? Is it an Africa where researchers become innovators? Is it an Africa where knowledge becomes wealth? Is it an Africa where women become leaders? That is a question for you to ponder upon. And to end this, I would like to end it with a quote. I'm not just building my career, I'm helping build the future of African science. Thank you so much for your time.
Wow, let's have our reacting emojis to really thank our today's keynote speaker, Madame Rehema, for such a detailed and very resourceful presentation about women in science. Wow, hope everyone has picked something. I personally have gained a lot. Yeah, we should understand that networking. Yeah, a lot of people have talked about networking. Degrees alone don't build careers, but with network, all is possible. I've noted that one in capital letters, underlined and bold enough. Yeah, financial intelligence in everything. As you're working, you see that financial intelligence in research is one of the drivers. I think it as a gear, according to Madame Rehema. We are saying that barriers are always there, but if you're consistent, it is when you fail, it's also part of success. We are also seeing that learning doesn't end. As old as you are, as young as you are, please never stop learning. A lot and a lot. we are saying that research is a tool of change. We are saying that the tool of change in green finance, in climate change, sustainable development, financial inclusion, digital finance. Wow, wow, wow. All these. I can't believe that I've learned all this from Bengaluru and in this episode 4 of our webinar. So at this juncture, at this particular moment, we are going in a session of question and answer. All the questions, you are requested to put them in the chat box. And in case you didn't manage to type in the chat box, in case you are not able to type in the chat box, in case of any question you'd like to raise to our Madam Rehema, this is the exact time that you have to raise that concern, that question, that issue that is not understood so clearly. Yeah, we are from questions now. Questions are open. Can unmute and talk to us.
Oh, hello everybody. I hope you can all hear me. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay. All right. I don't really have a question per se, but I've got a little bit of a note that I wanted to add on it. I would like to appreciate the speaker. She really brought out perfectly of how we need to be into this whole sector and how emphasis must be put in that. I truly loved it. But for my sector, I just wanted to add something little small. She talked a little bit about the American mathematicians who worked as human calculators at NASA. Yeah, that was a really interesting story actually. And what I just want to add on for motivation purposes, if anybody wants to feel the story like the war actually there's actually a movie that came out, I think 2016. It's called Hidden Figures. So I just want to raise it just as a piece of motivation to the women out there that if you want to feel and experience what actually went on, it's actually well documented in a movie called Hidden Figures 2016. A really amazing movie. It showed how these ladies, regardless of them being black and women at the same time, they didn't really give up. They kept working and eventually achieved the best of what they could build up, and it was really amazing. But that's all I've got to say for now. But thank you very much for the initiative. I really love it, and keep on going. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, can go on, Madam Rehema.
I was applauding what Mr. Kigozi said. You're welcome for adding on top of what I had already shared.
Okay, before actually Mr. Emma, yeah, then there is a question or a concern that was raised to me that I should maybe present as a finance minister on how best do I manage the finance of PASH. PASH is a growing initiative, and the little procedure that we're trying to follow, we are saying we create a budget of the little funds of how we got, and the grants that are coming in, of course, as they come, the budget is what the first step we first take in. So we have also accounts, the accounts from the bank, you're trying to get one. That's why in case of any grant shall be put there and then budgeted for. And then we create terms and conditions, and these conditions have to comply to them. Nothing like you're using each route and this, you have to follow the acceptable and accepted procedure that was raised by each one of us, and everyone is aware of. We should be as transparent as enough as the finance office. Yeah, then welcome Mr. Emma.
All right. Thank you, our moderator, for the day. At the same time, also, I appreciate the presenter who has been in position to give us clarity and more convinced information. And I would first congratulate the women who have managed to turn up for today's webinar. If I'm to exclude the presenter, and if I'm to look through the ladies who have joined today's webinar, we congratulate you. And that's enough research to tell you that the global south, or the continent where we come from, still faces that challenge. And if I'm to add on what the presenter said, she started well by giving us, the famous faces that have done the best on the continent. And I just imagine if we had a good number of, ladies on the webinar, how interesting will it be that they will look at the mentioned names and pick that courage and moral belief that they can go ahead. So my simple addition that I will add on is information how it reaches women. We need to increase our level of cascading it out to them. That is one of the greatest challenge, plus even how best are we going to appreciate our local knowledge so that it can be integrated in the exotic research. Other than that, we look forward to have more interaction with you as the Pan-African Science Hub. And if it is well suggested by CEO, Madam Rehema can always be coming in, to mentor and, applaud and give support to the leadership of the Pan-African Science Hub to ignite the engines that are within them, that they can also migrate to higher levels of serving communities and giving solutions to the continent. I thank you.
It will be my pleasure.
Okay, Mr. Abdulaziz, your concern, please. Mr. Abdulaziz, I see your hand is raised. You can present your concern. Okay, maybe we can continue. Yeah, about the information about to female about this research. And yes, Mr. Abdulaziz. Sorry. Anyway, let's continue. Because I don't see any of them trying to. Yes, Mr. Pius, our CEO.
Thank you. Thank you, today's moderator. And I want to thank today's presenter, Madam Rehema, for that nutritious presentation to our ladies. And I want to take this opportunity to thank members who are streaming live on our Facebook account, even the YouTube account. And on those who are watching on these channels, they have sent me 3 questions, which I have to present to Madam Rehema. One is asking, this one is from Shivimana Calvin. She's saying, Having studied in India and worked with some institutions in the UK, what practices should African universities adopt and what practices should they avoid copying? Then the next one is, what uncomfortable truths did living abroad teach you about Africa? Then this one is coming from Shiret. Shiret is asking, many leaders speak about empowering women, youth, but rarely hand over real decision-making power. Why does this continue to happen? So those are the 3 questions from the people streaming on our YouTube channel.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pius. I'm gonna start with the first one about the practices that should be adopted and shouldn't be adopted by the African institutions. Given that at least most of my higher education was pursued abroad, I think I'm in a good position to answer this question, and most of my education also, preliminary education, was pursued in Uganda. So the practices I would say right now that are missing in our home institutions is the funding. First of all is the funding, the funding sectors for scientific research, for innovators. I feel like that is one of the practice that should be put in place in all the institutions. There should be funding for the young scientists who are aspiring to be innovators, in such a way that we should have innovation hubs that fund these young scientists' research towards innovation, such that in case there is any innovation breakthrough, like for example the Kira V car that was, it was part of an innovation initiative by a student of a certain university, we lost that initiative because the universities were not willing to fund that innovation, and the idea was stolen by other, abroad institutions. You get what I mean? The second practice I would say is having entrepreneurship cells. Most of these institutions abroad have entrepreneurship cells. You don't need to be an innovator for you to be an entrepreneur. You get what I mean? You can be an entrepreneur in another kind of way. For example, the institution Alliance University has an entrepreneurship cell, and also Wolverhampton University has an entrepreneurship cell. When I have visited those entrepreneurship cells, where I have also given speeches, I have realized that most of the businesses that were created by students were funded by the university. And most of these businesses are non-scientific in any way. Someone created a gaming business. Someone created a non-profit organization. Someone created a restaurant. Those are some of the things that if our institutions put in place, it will be a very good practice. And lastly but not the least is collaboration practices. If our institution enforce collaborative practices amongst the different universities within Africa or within the country, I feel like that should be a very good practice. I hope that answers your question. Now, I'm going to move on to the next question. The uncomfortable truth that I have learned living abroad. This is kind of a touchy subject. I would request Mr. Pash to repeat the question so I know how to approach this question, please. Since I am not directly seeing the questions here on this platform.
So the next question was, what uncomfortable truths what uncomfortable truths did living abroad teach you about Africa?
Living abroad itself is an uncomfortable truth. I'll start from there. Regardless that some of us, or I would say the majority of us, especially everybody who's at home, are excited by the idea of living abroad. Once you reach the abroad, I'll put it in quotes, I'm putting it in quotes. Once you reach the abroad, you realize that east or west, home is the best. I realized that when it comes to the way the community is built in Africa is very different from how it is built in the abroad. And I would 100% prefer the one that is built in Africa. And the truth when it comes to our institutions, as I've just given a preamble on, I realize that our institutions are not doing enough to promote us and promote our talents. And also the food is very different. I hope that answers your question. And what was the last question, please? I'm sorry, I didn't note that down.
Then there is this one. With AI transforming education and finance, which jobs will disappear with the next decade, and how should African universities respond?
Thank you. Almost 90% of the jobs are going to disappear. That I'm going to put it out there with this AI transformation. And how should African universities respond? Let's take the example of China. That is how African universities should respond immediately. All these useless degrees that waste parents' money and students' time should be wiped off the university degree list. There are so many useless degrees in Africa that do not, they are not fit for this global AI era. So in order for African institutions to be competitive and to present to the world or to Africa, full-blown scientists, all these useless university degrees should be replaced with appropriate AI degrees, just like China has done, wiping 2,000 plus degrees, and nobody in the world can beat China when it comes to education. But it has already identified that these degrees have already, outlasted their usefulness. So when it comes to on a personal basis, you as a person should, as I have talked about in my previous slides, should up your skills. Degrees are important, but skills are very much important, especially in this AI era. The artificial intelligence is able to do almost everything that was being taught in computer science. So in order for you to be ahead or to have a competitive advantage, you must have different skills that artificial intelligence cannot beat you on. I hope that answers your question. Any other questions, please?
Yeah, so this one is coming from Agnes, Madam Agnes. She's streaming on our Facebook account, and she's saying, can Africa compete in the fourth industrial revolution without first solving basic issues like electricity, internet access, and governance?
Is it forest? Did you say first forest?
No, fourth industrial revolution, fourth.
Yeah, fourth. Africa as a whole is facing different challenges. That is true. But how do we compete? As I have said, change begins with leadership. You remember in my previous slide, I have put up a pyramid. If you would like me to share it again, I would. But change begins with leadership. If we have leaders that pioneer the scientific breakthroughs, the rest will fall in place on its own. Because also electricity was a scientific breakthrough. Do not forget that. It was not something that out of nowhere, it was a scientific breakthrough. Connecting different people, rural villages, urban villages, that is also a scientific breakthrough. We are talking about electricity, that is physics. So if enough researchers and innovation hubs are put at different universities, different young researchers will come up with solutions on how to fasten this process of rural electrification. We don't need to be putting poles everywhere in this digital era. No, we have young minds. I told you one of the advantage Africa has is a young population, and young people are very much innovative. So if these innovation hubs are put everywhere on these universities, or maybe different leaders or African entrepreneurs come up with an initiative, such as what Mr. Pius came up with, the Pan-African Hub, to unite different African scientists to come up with different solutions. You get? So it is the leadership that is supposed to be put up front for everything to move smoothly and faster. I hope that answers your question. Any other questions, please?
Okay, hopefully, I think questions from the YouTube and Facebook all have been answered.
All right.
So,
any questions from the people in the...
Is there anyone on call who wants to raise a question, please? No one on Google Meet on the link.
Alright. For understanding the knowledge. In Africa, we've seen that there is this information flow, lack of efficient information flow about science and innovation among ladies, especially. How best would we go to the ground level and fetch those ladies who may be able and to ignite that era, that urge, that drive in them? It's really, it's very, I think most of us are very down, not funded at all, not having any information, not having any exposure to what is going on in the dynamic world. How best could we go back down and face these people?
I beg your pardon, how best should you go to approach those people? Is that what you asked?
The question is about which means can we best use to efficiently fetch the female gender from the ground or the villages where they are to come up and get exposure to the research and innovation?
That's a very good question, Miss Ruth. I would like to say, if you want to reach people, okay, there should be efficient communication systems. Where efficient communication systems lack, the communication will not be efficient at all. So, which means there will be underrepresented and underserved populations in different parts of the country. So, in order for that barrier, that is one of the barriers, inefficient communication channels. Actually, I should have put it as one of the barriers, but thank you for bringing up that barrier. In order for us to eliminate that inefficient communication channels, everything is surrounded around innovation. For example, we all have been to India, at least the majority of people in this meeting. India is a global leader when it comes to financial fintech, financial technology. Okay, we know that the majority of the population is not educated. They are educated, yes, but the majority is not educated. The majority cannot read English. But through innovation, a UPI system, a unified payment interface system, was created that connects all the people who are educated and those who are not educated. What am I talking about? I'm talking about phone pay. I'm talking about Paytm, those two systems, leave alone Google Pay, because Google Pay is exclusively for those people who are educated. But when we talk about phone pay, it was designed in such a way that even someone who's not educated is able to read and understand it. Someone who does not understand English, it was designed in that way. So innovation is a very important thing that will help with their communication issues. And also, I don't know how much I must stress this, the leadership is important, because through effective leadership, this innovation will be driven faster. I hope that answers your question.
Then on film issue, the few females that so far maybe exposed already, we've got a bit of light about the research and innovation. How can we beat the bad leadership? I have to say this, in Africa we're still having that barrier of the bad leadership or bad governance. How best could we beat it or try to dodge around it and make sure that we try to and we pull our fellow females who are
Thank you so much for that question. That is something I have also already tackled in my presentation. As an African woman, when you reach the top, please pull 3 more African women with you. Do not close the door. The more we pull each other up, that will create more women in leadership positions. I have told you when I was presenting that I have a strong belief that we are male counterparts. If you look at countries that are governed by women, or the majority of the parliament that is women, you see the difference as compared to those countries where the majority is of the male counterpart. So it is upon us as women to uplift each other. The more we uplift each other, the more we create space for more African women in leadership positions. You understand what I mean? So you should not sit back there and wait for someone else to do it for you. Change starts with you. Change starts with you pulling one more woman with you. So the answer to your question is uplifting other women as we rise. Because the more we uplift other women as we rise, the more space we are going to create for more women leaders and better policies. I hope that is answering your question.
Wow, Madam Rehema. I don't know if there is any other person with a concern or a question or an appreciation or want to raise something before we proceed. Okay, now I'll take this singular honor. Still very much appreciate Madame Rehema for such a very wonderful presentation. It has really ignited the ladies that have been part of this webinar. I'm sure all of us have picked up something. With the sharp brains that we have as ladies, we've got something that will push us forward. So at this singular moment, I would love to usher in once again our CEO, pass on some announcements. Mr. Pius, you're welcome.
Thank you. Today's moderator and today's speaker, Madame Rehema, for that nutritious speech or presentation you have made. And really, I know it is going to touch many hearts of women there. Those who will find it on our YouTube, those who will find it on our Facebook. I'm sure it is going to touch many hearts. And the doors are always open, Madame Rehema. Whenever you want to approach to us, whenever you want to communicate to us, or whenever you wish to advise us, the doors are always open for you to talk to us and share your knowledge with us. With those, I want to say thank you. Members who have attended, those who are on our YouTube, those who are on our Facebook, really we don't take you for granted. As we are pushing for the greatness of Africa, we want to see Africa that is developed Africa, where we are doing our own things, where we want to see an Africa where we are developing medicines, where we are building our own aircrafts, where we are building best things, in that we shouldn't even be proud of our leaders right now who usually clap while buying things from outside. Now we want to change that. Instead, we want to clap while we are building our own things. With those, I wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm always open to anyone who needs mentorship. Mr. Pius has my email. You can always drop me a message on my WhatsApp or on my email or on my LinkedIn. Thank you so much for having me today. Have a lovely day ahead.
Thank you so much. Before you leave, we would request to take all of us to see this video so that we can take a photo. I can take a shot. I'd request all of us to go on video. At least let's have a good smile. So that those people that will watch us, they'll be. Wow. Yeah, please, I request each one of us to look on our videos.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to Africa. Even the electricity is off. No electricity, no clean water. Welcome to Africa.
Terminal, please. Madam Brenda.